Hi guys, and welcome back to a new video. In today's video, I want to talk about Legion Remix, and in particular, I want to talk about one specific question that many players have been asking, and this question is to know whether Blizzard will add during this event the different Mage Tower artifact weapon appearances that have been unobtainable since the pre-patch for Battle for Azeroth and since the end of Legion. And these are some of the weapons that players have been asking to get back into the game one way or another since forever. And now that we know for sure we will be able to get this remix event for Legion, this is of course one of the most burning questions that most of the player base has at the moment. So for those of you who are not familiar with these different weapons, basically during Legion you were able to get different artifact weapons for each of the different classes and each of the different specializations, and each time you were able to do different type of challenges, quests, and other things in order to unlock specific appearances for these different weapons. So here I'm just going to take this one as an example, and as you can see this is the Fury weapon for warriors. So this is the base weapon right here. Then when completing the class all campaign quest you were able to get these appearances right here. When completing the Balance of Power quest line, you were able to get these other appearances right here. Then from PvP, you were able to get these ones here, which are also really nice. Then you also had the hidden appearances. And finally, you had the challenge mode appearances that were available through the Mage Tower. And so these different appearances from the Mage Tower are the only ones that have been removed from the game and that are completely unobtainable since the end of Legion, and this is the same for all the different classes. Next to that, of course, all the other variants are still available, but these ones are unobtainable. So let me show you briefly all these different weapons. So first, for Death Knights, for Blood Death Knights, we have these different weapons right here. Then for Frost Death Knights, we have these other swords. And finally, we have the two-handed swords for Unholy, and I think these ones are some of the best weapons in the game. Then after that, for Demon Hunter, we have these different Warglaives right here, which are all pretty cool as well. And then we also have these other ones right here. So again, as you can see, pretty cool weapons overall. Then for Druids, Balanced Druids, we have these different staves or polearms right here. Then after that, for Feral Druids, we have these different cat forms, and these are some that players have really been asking to get again. Then after that, for Restoration, we have these different staves here. And finally, for Guardian, we have these different bear forms, which are also very nice. Then for Hunters, for Beast Mastery, we have these different bows right here, or guns. Then we have these different bows for Marksmanship. So as you can see, these are pretty nice. And finally, we have these ones for Survival, and these are polearms. And so these are all the different Hunter weapons. Then for Mages, we have these ones for Arcane. As you can see, these are pretty nice overall. Then for Fire, we have these different swords and also these Held in Offhand items. So again here, as you can see, these are pretty nice weapons. Then we have these ones for Frost, and these are really amazing staffs in my opinion. After that, we have the Monk weapons, so Brewmaster, Mistweaver, and Windwalker. Again here, really great models and really great colors overall for all these different weapons. And so these are all the Monk ones. Then we have the Paladin weapons. So here first we have the Holy ones, and these are really amazing maces and Held in Offhand items. Then we have the Protection ones right here. So again here the shields are so cool in my opinion. And finally, we have the Retribution ones, which are the Broken Ashbringers. And I think these, again, look super awesome. Then we have the Priest ones. Here, again, as you can see, we have more staffs. More of them right here. And finally, for Shadow Priest, we have, of course, Xalatat, or this weapon right here. So, really nice as well. Then after that, for Rogues, we have for Assassination these different blades right here. Then after that, for Outlaw, we have these swords, which are pretty awesome as well. And finally, for Sobriety, we have these daggers, which are also not too bad, but not as impressive as the other ones. Then for Shamans, we have these weapons and also these different shields, so they go together. Same with these ones. Basically, you will get one mace in each hand, and so these are pretty cool as well. And finally, for restoration or healing, basically you will be able to get this shield and this mace right here. Then for warlocks, we will be able to get these different polearms right here, or staffs. Then after that, we have these held in open items and daggers, and these are pretty badass as well. And finally, after that, we have these ones for destruction, and these are pretty big staffs as well. And finally, for warriors, first of all, for arms warriors, we have these different two-handed swords right here. Then we have these ones for furry warriors, which are really nice as well. And finally, for protection warrior, we have these different shields and one-handed maces right here. So these are all the different weapons that have been removed from the game and that players are asking to get back during Legion Remix. So obviously I'm not going to be able to answer this question because I don't work for Blizzard, and I'm not even sure if Blizzard already decided or not what they will do during this event. But I think there's definitely a few things we can discuss, and probably based on all the information that we have, it's easy to have a good guess at what Blizzard will end up doing. So the first important thing to discuss is why exactly Blizzard decided to remove these different weapons in the first place. And here the reason is very similar to, for instance, the different challenge mode sets from Mist of Pandaria or the different challenge mode weapons from the Warlords of Draenor expansion. And it's simply due to the fact that these different weapons were tied to a specific challenge in a specific expansion, and it's very difficult to keep and sustain this level of challenge after the end of the expansion because there were many different things that were specific to Legion. And so because these were pretty challenging items to get, and Blizzard wants to make sure that players feel rewarded and feel that the different weapons and rewards they got in game are still valuable even though the expansion ended, I think that's the reason why they decided to close this and remove the rewards. So like that, even though you can still take part in the Mage Tower and all of that, you can't get these different weapons because it's not really possible for them to make sure that there is still the same level of challenge right now compared to when these weapons were available during Legion. So I know here already that many of you are going to say that it's a little bit unfair because even at the end of Legion, everyone was super overpowered and it was pretty easy to actually get all these different weapons and to do these different challenges. But this is still something that Blizzard applies to many time-limited and challenging rewards like that in the game, whether it is from PvE or from PvP. And so that's the main reason why, again, they decided to do so. So here it's pretty easy to draw a parallel with what happened with Mist of Pandaria Remix and the challenge mode sets from the different dungeons. Sadly, Blizzard decided not to re-add these different sets during Mist of Pandaria Remix, and so I think it's a pretty good indication that they are not planning to bring back the weapons as it is right now in Legion Remix, because again, they decided not to do it for the challenge mode sets. However, one very important thing to note is that next to the different sets, during this challenge mode in Mist of Pandaria, you were also able to get these 4 different Phoenix's mounts that are completely unique, and especially the model is unique. And during Mist of Pandaria Remix, we were able to get a recolored version of these different mounts, which is kind of crazy because, again, these were completely unobtainable during the entire time until Mist of Pandaria ended and Mist of Pandaria Remix. And so I think maybe this is something that Blizzard will consider doing with also the different Mage Tower appearances and just add some Recolors instead of having the main weapons and the original ones from Legion. Now, another argument that I've seen quite a lot is the fact that Legion Remix and Remix events in general might not be the best way to bring back these challenging rewards into the game, simply because everyone will end up being super overpowered during this event. We've seen it with Mist of Pandaria Remix, where everyone was able at the end to almost one-shot all the different raid bosses and everything pretty easily. And I definitely think this is a valid point, because if you are going to bring back some of these different rewards, you want to make sure that they're not just free items to get that are really meaningless, and that players still need to actually do a challenge equivalent to the one that was initially available back in Legion. And that's why, indeed, if you can just go through the different challenges, one-shot all the bosses and get all the weapons like that in one day, that's not something that's going to be really good for these different rewards that are going to completely become super trivial, in my opinion. However, here there is something that can be done, and that is already done for Retail WoW with the Mage Tower. Basically, when you queue up in order to complete one of these different challenges, your level will be squished, and also your eye level will be squished. So it means that you are basically similar to a Legion character. And so I think they could do something similar during the Legion Remix event. Let's say, for instance, right now you have a lot of different stats, you have really good gear and everything. When you queue up in order to do the challenge, you will get a complete new set of base item and base stats, and you will need to complete the challenge with these different items and with these different stats. And this will be the same for everyone, so like that, it's as equally as challenging for everyone. And at least like that, people won't be able to say that the players who got these different weapons during the remix version of Legion are not deserving of them, because they still had to do this pretty hard and challenging. Personally, I think that would be completely fine if Blizzard can replicate the same level of challenge, and if players still need to really put the efforts into getting all these different rewards. Now, again, in my opinion, I think one of the main things that Blizzard should do is simply add some recolored versions of these different weapons. So here we have these 4 different variants, for instance, for the Warrior one, and I think what they should do is simply add a 5th one that will be available during Legion Remix, and at least like that, you keep the initial items from Legion still unobtainable and unique, but you add another appearance for these different weapons, or another color that allows players who missed out on the event to get one of these models and just get a new color instead of the original ones. Like that, I really think that everyone will be happy, because the original weapons will remain rare and prestigious, and the players who really want some of these different models will be able to get a new unique color from the remix event. And like that, again, everyone will be able to be happy in the end. Overall, I think this is very important for Blizzard to consider carefully this question, because, for instance, when I did a recent poll, a majority of players are saying that they would be very happy with getting these different weapons back during the remix event. And also, many players are saying that sadly they won't even bother coming back if the weapons are not available during the remix event. Again, this is something that already happened with Mr. Pandora Remix, and a lot of players said there is no purpose to come back if you can't actually get the different challenge mode sets, and still there were a lot of people playing and it was still very popular. But overall, I still think Blizzard needs to find a way to make sure that people are not too frustrated and too bothered, and that this event will still be successful. And my personal preference is really to bring back have some of these recolored weapons for each of these different Mage Tower appearances that people will be able to farm, and that will still be pretty challenging to get. So like that, everyone will be happy in the end. So let me know in the comments what you think about this, and if in your opinion they should bring back all the weapons or not, and especially if you think they will do it or not. Personally, again, I really hope they will find a way to make everyone kind of happy, even though there's still gonna have some people who will be unhappy at the end of the day. But I really hope overall this event will be successful and players will be happy with it. I will be back very soon with more guides and more videos, and in the meantime I wish you a great day. Bye!